my boss said, there's nothing like the art department that's going to be left. And he sort of said, he takes his IBM hat off and he says, leave.
Martha's this incredible presence in the village.
Ah, ben Martha, c'est la Canadienne de Lacoste.
I don't precisely know her age, but it doesn't actually matter at all because she's like a child.
I think it's amazing that he has decided to stay in this little village.
Et lui, humainement, c'est vraiment quelqu'un que j'aime beaucoup.
I think I was like 22, 23. And I was really kind of lost.
Ooh, she was on TV, she was on radio.
She's one of the memories of Lacoste too, in that kind of more edgy, creative artist side.
It was in the 60s, I think, she came down here and fell in love with a guy who was living in Lacoste.
Ben, je me suis même pas posé la question. À l'époque, c'était une époque libre quand même.
So it always had a different imprint and a different kind of energy to it, Lacoste. It was a bit more of a misfit place. Like there were writers, there were painters, there were sculptors from different countries and backgrounds.
Les villageois disaient qu'il leur avait ouvert l'esprit.
Monsieur Cardin, as he said, some people collect stamps. I collect houses.
So a lot of things did kind of change from the inside, but from the outside, as you see it now, it's still one of the most beautiful places in Europe.
One year I realized that I wanted to learn to weld and start sculpturing, and it was my dad who was my mentor. And of course, when I finally went and asked him if he would show me how to weld, his answer was, finally. I lived in the cabin that my dad built, in fact, for 5 years. A bee put into my bonnet by my dad, saying, so, where are you going to be in 10 years? I said, here. You know, I don't have to pay rent. I know everybody in the lake. It's great. Life is good. But, geez, it started to buzz around in my head, and eventually I realized that it was just too solitary. The trip to finally find this place was quite something. Didn't last that long, probably a month and a half. Wherever I stopped, there was somebody that would put their finger out to point to go somewhere else. Down on the coast, and friends that would say, go west. And I ended up in Avignon, contact in Avignon. Gee, they say Bonnieux is really nice. So I go to Bonnieux. And in Bonnieux, the people are saying, why are you here now? You know, it's December. They'll right away point their finger to Lacoste. So, by gum, you know, I ended up here, and just by pure chance again, I bump into the right people. When I started off in Canada, the question would go, oh, you're sculpting, but where'd you study, you know? Or who is your prof? Who did you study with? And of course, it was my dad, and it wasn't really a school. It was just an intensive, how do you weld? And over here, the question is, what do you do? I don't care where we're from. What are you doing now, you know?
Well, so technically I grew up in Goult. It's closer to Lacoste, but it was actually the village of Goult. But I spent a lot of my, especially teenage summers and years in Lacoste, just because it was a lot more lively and interesting village to hang out in. You know, it's good to get out of the valley too, because it's an amazing place here that I love very much, but it's also good to see the world. So I went to Paris for 3 years and studied design actually in these really good schools. But then I was kind of getting a little antsy and a little kind of needed to have other experiences. So being American, I also could go to work there. So I went to New York for 3 years in the mid-90s. I think the biggest challenge for me was a point in my life before I kind of discovered sculpture, where I had a kind of breakdown because for many reasons. I was heartbroken, I was exhausted. It lasted a few weeks, a few months. It wasn't very long, but it was long enough. I found an expression that brought me out of this hole. Sometimes suffering can be a key and door to something really much more magical and creative than one can imagine. So where we are right now was my mother's painting studio. It's this little cabin over there. She wasn't using it, so I moved in. That was 99. Put the electricity in because there was just only running water. And started my adventure.
Je suis venue par hasard en vacances, en stop, à l'auberge des Cygne. C'est comme ça, j'ai trouvé la région tellement belle que je suis toujours revenue. Et lors d'une fête, j'ai rencontré Maurice qui habitait Lacoste. Alors à l'époque, il était forain. Un homme très libre et assez rebelle. C'est comme ça que je suis venue à Lacoste. Ah, j'avais quel âge? J'avais 30 ans, en 1972. Non, à l'époque, on ne se mariait pas. À l'époque, c'était une époque libre quand même.
She and Maurice got the cafe going. Evidently, the cafe was full every night.
Pour moi, c'était bizarre. C'était pas du tout mon métier. Maurice, c'était plus, lui, il n'y avait pas de problème. C'était une époque quand même un peu folle où il y avait beaucoup de monde, très mélangé, et beaucoup de monde dans le café. Alors moi, je savais que je ne pourrais pas vivre ici toute ma vie parce que je voulais reprendre le journalisme, qui était vraiment ma passion. Donc je suis repartie à Paris. Et c'est Maurice qui a gardé le café. Parce que c'est quand même... Moi, j'ai jamais été artiste, ou même peut-être dans l'écriture, mais non, mais c'est plus une compréhension humaine, une curiosité d'aller vers les autres, et voilà. Les artistes ont été très importants pour le village. Les artistes, les premiers sont venus dans les années 50. C'était tous des gens qui venaient plutôt du Nord, Suède, Danemark, Angleterre, États-Unis.
There were maybe 6, 7, 8 different Swedes. The Swedes were really, piling down here.
Growing up here, surrounded by this vivid art community was precious because of course there were my parents who were artists, but it was also the whole community around it. Yeah, when I came back here, that was still alive, and it still is in a way. Even if a lot less young artists come here because it's too expensive.
I don't know how he can do what he does because he's taking away. I have nothing and I'm adding. So we're going from the opposite end.
It's what it's about. Art is about sharing anyway. If you don't share your art, if you don't share your expression, you kind of miss the point. Whatever we do is a mirror of who we are in a way. And her sculpture is very lively, very playful, and very unsnobby, unpretentious, and I love it. It's always like a bowl of fresh air. The kids love it. It's like you see that you can interact with it. It moves. So it's always a joy to see Martha and her work. Yeah.
That's right. Lacoste School of the Arts, Bernard Freem, who set it up in 1971.
J'ajoutais quelque chose. Au début de chaque session, quand les Américains arrivaient, Bernard Frime organisait un grand apéro où allaient tous les gens du village pour faire connaissance.
It doesn't have that sense of community anymore. That's for sure. Pierre Cardin came in the meantime, bought all these houses.
He bought about 13 houses, but left them empty, which meant that the village life diminished.
If they weren't for the cafes we could meet now and then, it's lost its kind of center of gravity, let's put it that way. The people I grew up with here, some have left, some have stayed, but somehow they always come back and visit, so there is that.
I've had a couple of friends who have decided move back to Germany or move back to England or whatever. And of course I look around here and I think, impossible.
I don't have that call to go live somewhere else.
The way of living it's happening here. I don't think I could have the same way of living over there.
Pour moi, Lacoste était trop petit parce que je suis quand même une citadine. Moi, je suis quand même quelqu'un qui bouge beaucoup. Je suis une partie de l'année ici, une partie à Paris, et j'écris. Je continue à écrire. C'est ici beaucoup les rencontres avec les amis, puis la famille, et puis l'écriture.
I feel very fortunate that finally, whenever I was 30, whatever, that I did find or latch on to the passion. Because I wouldn't want to have gone through my life thinking, now what do I want to do? I had a buddy who said, he was 45, I still don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. That was years ago. Maybe there are some women who have not been able to follow their passion because family.
To raise a family here, I would say, has got a lot of advantages, just because I think that it's great to grow up in nature. That's how I grew up, and to me it's precious. I met Isabelle, my wife, in Paris some 20 years ago now. She was working in this on this beautiful Place des Vosges in Paris. So she's from New Zealand. Fell in love, she came here and just loved the place and had the courage to move here because, living in Paris is a different energy and a different thing than being here. And after a few years, we had a child called Carole, a girl who's now 13 and who's an amazing human being.
Le défi le plus grand de ma vie, alors là, de vivre en couple peut-être.
To tell you the truth, I don't think I was destined to have kids. Tu as eu des enfants?
Non, pas encore.
Times came up when it would, maybe be a situation like, okay, the relationship had gone on, on and on, and sometimes it would be the idea, yeah, it would be great, we could have kids, you'd be a great mom. And then I think, no, not ready for that. So I'd be the one to backpedal out. So not only once did I backpedal, but here I am, I'm on my own, I'm single, and I just feel so comfortable.
Well, the thing is, what is life? What is death? I mean, maybe maybe I've already died somewhere. Part of us dies all the time, and we're reborn also. So again, would I want to die here?
Why anywhere else?
Oh, je sais pas, n'importe où.
I honestly, yes and no. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Non, depuis toujours, depuis que je suis toute petite. J'ai su que j'allais mourir, mais...
In my next life, I'm going to be a bird.
Peut-être je vais pas mourir.
I must admit that I have told my entourage, my friends around here. Listen, when you come to knock on the door and say, Martha, you can't live on your own anymore. It's too precarious. You've got to go into a home. I'm going to have a party the next day, and I'm going to have my little collection of pills, and I'm going to go.
Bien la non-fiction, mais que je mets un peu de fiction.